The Ring 4, November 22nd. Watch only on DAZN.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps with Fight Hub TV, and I am joined now with the one and only Abel Sanchez. Abel, it has been a while since you and I have done an interview. I feel like I used to interview you like every other week before. It's so good to finally see you here in Saudi Arabia, of all places, but it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you. I retired for a little while, but now I'm back in the mix, and I'm happy to be here.
I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what was the inspiration behind deciding to want to come back? And then more specifically, your involvement with Saudi fighters.
The catalyst for this originally was Filip Hrgovic. Mm-hmm. He called me back in August of last year and wanted to talk about coaching change, and wanted to see what I thought, and wanted to discuss some philosophies and stuff like that. And we did for about a month. We came to agreements, and then we started training last September, not this September 24, that is. And we worked together for a couple fights, and for some reason I decided I was going to open up another gym. I opened up another gym, and now I have 6 other fighters, so it's crazy.
Where did you open your new gym?
About 3 blocks from the old one.
Okay.
Yeah, you remember where McDonald's was? Up there in Big Bear?
Yes.
Okay, 3 doors down from McDonald's, I bought a piece of property on the boulevard that goes from street to street with a big warehouse in it, and I converted that into a gym.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you finally back in the mix. Just a quick question in terms of retirement. Sometimes people often say walking away, and it sounds good at the time, right? Where you just kind of get a bit more time to yourself, but then after a while there's that bug of missing something that you've done for so many years. Is that what you felt? Like at some point you just thought, you know what, I really miss boxing?
Yes and no. I'm one of those type that once I'm finished with something, I'm finished with it. I sold my gym because I knew that if I had the first gym, that I was always going to be coaching. You were going to call me up and say, hey, listen, I got this guy that we can look at and take him to my gym. And so I sold it for that reason, to get completely away from it. But I'm the type of person, I got to be busy. I got to be doing something. I have a cabinet shop in my garage. I do a lot of cabinet work, and I played a lot of golf. But it got, I'm going to say boring. It just got, it wasn't a structured thing that I was doing every day. And I think the sport, for me, the boxing, gives me a structure, gives me something to do every day. In the morning we run at 6, in the afternoon we train. So I needed that in my life. So lucky Hrgovic called me and kind of scooted me along.
Yeah, motivated you to come back. A pretty big card this weekend with David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde. I'm just curious to see what your thoughts are on the main event. This is David's 3rd fight at 175. How have you, or what do you think of him being at 175 and how he's done so far?
I think he's done well so far. He hasn't shown us the kind of snapping power at 175 that he had at 60 and 68. But Anthony Yarde is going to present the problem for him only in the fact that he's going to press him. Maybe he'll scare him a couple times. I'm not going to say drop him or hurt him or anything like that, but just give him a little scare, as Morrell did in their fight. But David should win. And should win going away.
Do you think that this, should he be successful against Anthony Yarde, David Benavidez, that you'd like to see him fight Dimitri Bivol?
That'd be a great fight. I think that's the next big fight.
Yeah.
Just depending on Dimitri being healthy and being ready, but I think that's the next big fight for that division, and maybe for boxing. Really, 2 big guys that very, very talented, both of them. So I would love to see that fight.
What do you make of us not going to get to see Canelo versus Benavidez now that he's moved up to 175? I don't see Canelo moving up to 175 to fight him. Maybe David would move back down to 168, sure, but it doesn't really seem like it's a fight that Canelo's interested in. What do you make of the fact that we may not ever get to see that monstrous fight?
Being in a position where I had Golovkin and everybody was doing the same thing to us as they're doing to Canelo, I think Canelo needs to do what's best for Canelo. I think Canelo has proven that he'll fight anybody at his weight. But when a guy puts it in his mind that he's not going to give somebody a payday for whatever reason, for maybe the way the trash talking and all that, then Canelo at the time was driving the bus. Now that he's gotten beat by Crawford, there's no reason for him to fight anybody that he doesn't want to fight. I think he's made enough money and he's done enough in his career. I think he's done a lot for Mexican boxing, whether they like him or not. He's probably one of the greatest fighters that come out of our country for a lot of different reasons. Maybe not the most technical, but he's done more for our sport in Mexico than I think anybody else has. There's a lot of kids that are looking up to him that want to be who he is. So as far as him fighting David, there's no reason for him to fight David. David has to go on to forget about that fight. It's not going to happen. Didn't happen before. It's sure it's not going to happen now that he got beat. So David just needs to keep his path and do what he's got to do. And for Canelo, if he comes back, which I hope he doesn't because he doesn't need to, then he's got to pick and choose who he wants to fight.
Were you surprised that Terrence Crawford beat Canelo?
Of course, I think everybody was. I think.
Believe it or not, Abel, a lot of people that I spoke to were like fully convinced that Terrence was going to do it.
Yeah, well, I didn't see a lot of that on the net, social media. I saw a lot of people, as I did, be completely wrong because we thought that he was going to be too big for him.
Yeah.
But we failed to look at it deeper. I think a lot of the so-called experts that Canelo had been fighting people that stood in front of him. Canelo had been fighting people that were willing to fight with him. Canelo was fighting people that were a little slower than Crawford. Canelo was fighting people that were not as smart as Crawford. And I think before the fight I mentioned Golovkin fighting Kell Brook, how we had a difficult time the first 4 rounds to try to assimilate Kell Brook's speed and his movement. And once we figured that out, then it was going to be an easier fight for us. Well, I thought that the same thing was going to happen for Crawford. The first 4 rounds were going to be difficult for Canelo, but after that he was going to be able to figure him out. And so surprised that Terrence was able to do it for 12 rounds. And not only do it for 12 rounds, but in the last part of the fight, he kind of came on and he had frustrated Canelo so much that it was easier for him. So all credit to Terrence. He fought a great fight.
We're not quite sure if Canelo's going to retire or not. I wouldn't be surprised at this point if he took one last cash out with Jake Paul, as it seems like a lot of people are throwing their name in the hat these days. Speaking of Jake Paul, just Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, or is it Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua? I don't know. But did you ever see that on your 2025 bingo card? Because I sure didn't.
No, and when I first heard about it, being mentioned, I thought it was a farce. I thought it shouldn't happen. As a fan, I thought it was a farce. As a coach and as a manager of other fighters, I've come to understand that we have to do as much as we can for the fighters' future and for our future, to make sure that we're taken care of for the rest of our lives. This sport is so short for these fighters that they need that assurance. They need that bank account to be suffice enough to carry them on for the rest of their life. So no, I don't blame Anthony for anything. I don't think that he's doing something wrong. I think that he's doing what he needs to do for himself, which is the proper thing to do, in my opinion. Now, as far as the fight, I think that maybe 6-7 rounds, maybe 5-6-7 rounds, Anthony will catch him with some shots and put him down, and I think the fight will be stopped. I don't think Jake presents a problem. I think that it's a low risk, high reward for Anthony.
Well, let's talk about what we think is going to happen. People think, obviously, AJ is going to do the business. He should be able to shut him out relatively quickly. That's the general consensus, right? Because AJ is who he is. But what if he doesn't? What does that say now? Because I think a lot of times people right now are thinking AJ must knock him out. And if he doesn't, then they think, oh, he's not as good as he was, or is Jake Paul better than what we're giving him credit for? I mean,
no, I think if the latter happens, it just opens the doors for a lot more fights. It opens the door for Jake to have other fights because he's better than people thought, and it opens the doors for guys to want to challenge Anthony Joshua. He's not as good now. He's over the hill. Maybe we can fight him now. Maybe so. It opens the doors. There's positives and negatives. I think that it opens the doors for a lot of opportunities for both guys.
Would you be surprised if Canelo did decide to fight Jake Paul? Because for a while there, I don't know if you read that, but there were rumors, heavy, real rumors, that Canelo did agree to fight Jake Paul and pulled out last minute.
You know, I would be more as a coach or in not a fan, not the fan part, but as a coach, I would be more afraid of the Canelo fight for Jake than I would for the AJ fight. Canelo's going to hit him and hit him and hit him and hurt him, where AJ is going to box him and just AJ's AJ. I mean, he's huge. He's not going to try to prove a point. Where I think Canelo would try to hurt Jake.
Does AJ stop the Jake Paul train, in your opinion?
If the fight happens, yes. Yeah. It hasn't happened yet. The fight, that is. Yeah, it's signed and everything, but so many things can happen.
Yeah. What do you think has made Jake Paul so successful up until this point? Because one thing I really respect about him is, 4.5 years ago, he was like, I'm going to fight the best and I'm going to become a world champion one day. I mean, he literally manifested everything that he said he was going to do. He's even dropped the names of like Canelo at one point. Everyone thought there's no way Canelo will ever fight you. And then you start hearing the rumors that they were actually in talks. You got to respect him for doing what he's doing, especially for women, for female boxers and what he's doing for them. Are you taken aback a bit at how successful he's been able to be in the sport?
No, you got to respect the fact that he set out on a mission, and he's actually captivated an audience that is very pro Jake. Good for him. He's got a gig going. You can't listen. I've never been able to. I've never. How can I put anybody down that's got an idea going and they're making money about it? Look, everybody's got a right to do what they do, and like I said, he's captivated an audience that is very loyal to him, and he's making a lot of money for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. He's helped in the sport, maybe not in the way that a lot of people look at, but like you just said about the women, and he's putting a lot of other people on the undercards that are making a little bit of money. And as a coach, our fighters, other than, say, Al Heyman 10 years ago and now His Excellency, our fighters really don't make that kind of money. And for not only the fighters, but for the coaches that are involved day in and day out, it's finally a chance to put a little change in their pocket.
Right. I completely agree. A fight that hasn't quite been announced but is definitely heavily rumored to be true is Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. I thought for a second there we were actually going to get Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez for a moment, and obviously that's changed course, and now he's this weekend fighting Brian Norman Jr. But just your thoughts on Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez, and who do you think wins?
Great fight.
Yeah.
Great fight. You know, it just is reminiscent of the 80s when those 5 great fighters were fighting each other. And I say 5 because Benitez should be included in that Fab 4.
14.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of fights that need to be made. And all credit to Shakur, all credit to Teofimo. I think it's a 50-50 fight, really. The difference would be now is that Teofimo's going to have to attack, where he generally waits and he's a counterpuncher, but he's going to have to attack Shakur, and I think it'll make for a very, very good fight.
Well, I can't really say that now. I was going to say if Devin and Teo were to fight, who would you favor? I mean, would you?
I think Devin has a tough fight on his hands on Saturday night. But in that fight, I would have to favor Devin. If Norman hasn't knocked him out, I'd have to favor Devin. I think he's going to box him from the outside, and Teo's going to have a hard time catching him.
Okay, so let's talk about the Devin Haney and Brian Norman fight. Devin he respects him, but he did question Brian's resume. He didn't really feel that he had a strong resume. But his last performance against Sasaki was arguably knockout of the year. Just what are your thoughts on the overall fight, and do you have a favorite?
You know, we had a chance to host Brian and his father and his uncle up in Big Bear for about 4 weeks. And what a pleasant young man. What a hard worker, what a blue-collar type of fighter that I really, really like. That type of fighter that didn't come with an entourage, didn't come with distractions, didn't come with nothing, came to work. So saying that, his resume may not be the big names, as they used to say about Golovkin's resume, but he's been getting it done. And the knockout of the Japanese young man I think showed that he can crack. Devin has had so many damn distractions around him, just talk and just all the BS around him that I think that's necessary for him to pump himself up. Where on the other side, Brian doesn't need that. Brian lets his hands and his upbringing do the talking inside the ring. I'd like Brian to win the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Devin goes down a couple times but gets back up and is a decision because of the knockdowns for Brian. But I think it's fight of the night, really.
Yeah, I know. It has all the makings,
Yes.
right?
If everything happens the way they're talking and the way that I don't see Brian not doing what he normally does. I can see Devin talking all this and then doing a Ramirez fight. I can see Devin doing that, but I think Brian is going to attack him and just force him to make it a fight.
So let's go. Lastly, Conor Benn has called out either Haney, Brian Norman, several Mario Barrios, etc. But if Brian Norman or Devin Haney, whichever becomes successful in the night, goes on to face someone like Conor Benn, what do you make of those type of matchups?
I think Conor Benn is not on their level. I think that just like when Gotti and Ward fought, they made for great fights. Rafael Marquez and Israel Vasquez made for great fights, but they were not on the elite level. Yeah, they were champions. They were very, very good fighters, but they were not whomever wins Brian or Devin on that level. I don't think Conor Benn's on that level. I think that he and Chris will make great fights for the rest of their careers if they ever fight again. I think Chris depleted himself and trying to make weight for this fight, and he looked terrible, and Conor had a better night. But Conor would have a difficult time with either one of Devin or Brian, even if they fought him after one of them lost. I think that he would have a hard time.
So do you think Devin or Brian beats Conor Benn?
Yes.
Okay. You have two fighters on this card. Do you care to kind of explain sort of how that involvement came about, and then also tell us a bit about the two fighters, as I'm sure the audience is new to their names?
Yeah, I have Muhammad Alakel. He has 6 fights. He fights at 132 pounds. And I have Sultan Al Muhammad. He fights at 130. He's a 17-year-old that just had his first fight on the Canelo card. So he'll be fighting a second fight. How that came about is I got a call from Mike, a friend of mine, Mike. Wanted to know if I was interested in talking to His Excellency Turkey, and I spoke with him one night. He asked me some questions. I gave him the answers, I guess, that he wanted or that he wanted to hear. And several months later, I had a couple fighters. I had one actually, and then another one came, and now I have 3.
Do you train them out here in Saudi, or do they go to Big Bear?
No, unfortunately, I have a rule for myself. Unfortunately for them, I have a rule for myself that we train in my gym.
Okay.
I have more control of the type of work that we do when I'm in my own place where I can have all my own equipment that I design myself. So, no, they come to me.
How have they sort of received Big Bear? Because I'm sure it's very different from what they're used to.
Well, I think they love it. I mean, they act like they love it. But you know what I think it is, though? I think that prior to His Excellency calling me, I'm sure he had to sit down with these kids and explain to them what he expected of them. Right. If he was going to be helping them, and as I try to explain to all my fighters, you have these people that are helping you to live out your dreams. The dreams of being a fighter. And I'm sure he had to sit down with them. And they came out and they were willing to do whatever it was that I needed for them to do. They're young, but they're very disciplined, and I'm having a good time because I'm getting what I want out of them.
It's always very interesting because here, soccer or football is such a big deal, right? And I would imagine that boxing is relatively new to the scene. How have you found sort of that motivation from them? Like, what made these two guys decide that this is the path that they wanted to take? Have they just had those discussions with you? Because I'm quite curious.
No, actually, there's 3 of them. Abdullah fought on the other one is a 154-pounder that fought on the week of the Canelo fight. No, I think that they understand, and maybe, again, I wasn't privy to this, but I think that Turkey had a talk with them. They have to understand that they're the pioneers of this. They're the pioneers of the sport here in Saudi. So they are the first in what's expected of them they have a big weight on their shoulders. What's expected of them, they understand, I guess, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that they make their countrymen proud.
All right, Abel. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it as always. Just talking to your expertise, I respect it so much. Any final words? Anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
Yeah, glad to have you back.
Yeah, happy to be back.
No, I'm really excited about, and as we talked before at my house when you visited us, I wasn't so aware of what is happening and what they're trying to do and what His Excellency is trying to do for our sport. I think it's important to have an influx like that once in a while, like we had Al Heyman back 10 years ago, that puts a little juice back into our sport and motivates a lot of the up and comings to do better. So we're fortunate that we're in this position, and I'm fortunate to be here, and I'm happy trying to help.
I agree. It's definitely, the landscape has definitely changed, shifted a lot, but I could see where the positives are. And I know change is often uncomfortable sometimes because we don't really know what's going on half the time. You don't really see the bigger picture. But, you know, one thing that I hope for, and we have seen in this last year, is that we are getting the bigger fights, the big matchups that the fight fans really want to see, because we're cutting out a lot of the the politics. So I'm the same way. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, I think the belts are great, but I think financial security for a lot of these fighters that these fights are helping is very important too.
Yeah, for sure. People don't always see it that way, you know.
As a coach, you have to,
Yeah,
I think,
you have to.
because we see these young men at the beginning, and then we see them unfortunately at the end, and it's not always a positive thing.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I know the press conference is going to be starting in probably about an hour and a half or so. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, a couple hours. Yeah. But we're going to have to set off soon to the press conference because we actually have to go earlier than you guys.
I have to go to the gym right now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate it. Bye, Fight fans.